Yeah, it just came out a couple days ago, and people have been contacting me about it because it basically says that the amount of sugar, fructose, and sucrose in 3 sweetened drinks that Americans, a large part of the population, average that many per day, that amount given to mice causes extremely high mortality. Next best thing to rat poison for the high rate of mortality in a period of, I think it was 32 weeks or 36 weeks.
Right.
35% of the sugar-reared females died, and only 17% of the so-called stock diet females died.
That sounds bad on the face of it, doesn't it? You can explain the science behind their findings.
Yeah, twice as many deaths in this fairly moderate period of time just from drinking the equivalent of 3 sodas. And that was so weird and extreme. I looked up what that group had been doing before this study, and they were working on, as you mentioned, inbreeding. And they found that the inbred mice had a high mortality, and aggression was designed into their living arrangement so that they thought of it as accelerated evolution, apparently, in which the survival of the meanest would be evident in a very short time. And it happened that in the several years ago, but just a year or two before they switched from their inbreeding studies to the sugar study, there were 3 or 4 papers published showing that a diet enriched in starch and polyunsaturated fats powerfully increased aggression and mouse killing in rats. So the connection between starch, polyunsaturated fats, and aggression was clearly established, and they had an environmental setup that allowed aggression to kill off part of the population fairly quickly. And so I don't think it was just an objective study of the effect of sugar, because the so-called stock diet, consisting of some grains and soy protein or soy flour, had cornstarch added, 25% cornstarch. So the grains contained the polyunsaturated fats, and it was a model of the aggression-promoting diet, but they didn't mention that in their publicity about the fact that the so-called normal diet allowed higher survival in the females than the sugar-rearing diet with the equivalent of 3 sodas per day. So what they did was create an arrangement in which feeding the one group of animals so that they became aggressive, the setup was such that they could take over the food supply, the nesting arrangement, and generally bully the weaker animals until they died. So that extremely high mortality is not produced by drinking 3 sodas a day. It would be if you had to associate the sugar-reared population with the population living on starch and polyunsaturated fats, who would endanger the passive people.